I like what Dr. Shadi said the other day about the white hair. I did the same thing to mine. Maybe because we both have something in common. He's from Said and I'm from Salt, or my family comes from Salt. My subject for today is making a difference in the mass media. And I thought maybe if you have your Bible, we turn to John chapter 4, verse 35. Do you not say, there are yet 4 months, and then comes the harvest? Behold, I say to you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, that they are white for the harvest. I want to start with a couple of words that involves the subject. The first word is organization, and the second word is timing. Timing, tawqeet. I had the privilege a couple of years ago to receive training from KABC in Glendale, and I spent quite a bit of time learning how they operate. Of course, KABC is rated the #1 news in the Los Angeles market, one of the largest markets in the US. I want to take you through their studios and their offices just to give you an idea on what it takes to produce some fast news that are current. As you first enter their offices, you'll see the big newsroom. The newsroom is filled with writers, producers, and other people that are executives that pays attention to the administration of the news. Some corner over there, they have an area where they call it the teaser news. Something like, let's see, suspect who robbed the bank caught, news at 11. When they do that, they spend maybe 15 or 20 minutes in preparation for this. First, they give them the timing. They tell them in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes, and so on. And everybody in the newsroom are preparing for this announcer just in a split second to say news at 11 or something like that. The news writers spend all their time gathering news, current news, and writing it in the form where they can, the announcers say it on television. They start with a meeting around 8:30 in the morning for all the producers. They sit around the table with a big whiteboard with somebody writing the items of news that they think they want to cover for the day. So they write what happened, current news, and they discuss it. One producer will say, I'll take that news and put it on the 4 o'clock news. The other will say, I'll take this item and put it on the 5 o'clock, and so on. And they may repeat the same news on all the hours, and then they organize it, and then they finish their meeting. Then it goes to the printers. And around noon or so, you'll hear about 24 printers printing all the news that they were going to say. And the reason they print it is just in case the electronic teleprompters go out, they have a backup to look at. And believe it or not, those apprentices, as the papers are being generated, they grab those papers and place it on the tables of the announcers, the producers, the technical directors, and all the people involved. And as they're doing this, the news are changing, and then it's reprinting. So they got to come back and then replace those papers that are no longer news now. They are current news. So next to the newsroom, you go to the operation room. The operation room is a small area in the middle where they receive all the current news and what's happening, the breaking news. You get those guys that are listening to 1,000 different communication devices, scanners, fire department, police department, medics, anything that's happening, and they're all going at the same time. How do they listen to so many different things at the same time and be able to discern what is newsworthy so they can kick it to the producers so they can change the news to breaking news. They also receive by phone and fax in that area that news that people are releasing, press releases and so on. They also have a person that assigns the field reporters to their stories and sends them into the field. So this is the operation room. Next thing we go to the communications room. Communication room is really awesome. I love that area. They got more than a couple of helicopters and about 35 field trucks and reporters, and their job, those guys' job, is to link the helicopters or the news trucks from the field to the station by microwave. So the news truck have a microwave transceiver or receiver. Yes, it does receive and it sends. That sends live video to the studio so they can carry it on the broadcast that day live. And it takes some effort and science to line up those microwave dishes to receive the proper signal. Sometimes the proper signal does not come in because of interferences or clouds or whatever, or the truck is not in a line of sight with the microwaves, dishes, receivers. They end up using satellite trucks, and satellite trucks cost a lot of money. So there's always a backup for an important news where a satellite truck comes in, and the satellite truck has a type of dish that connects with the satellites, and that way they have to buy time, airtime, on those satellites so they can receive it at the station and transmit it. So they have to pay a certain amount of money for the time they use that time on the satellites. Now we go to the control room. The control room has a bunch of people sitting in there: the director, the producer, the assistant director, the technical director, the teleprompter person. A teleprompter is a person that is reading what is read on the news and scrolling it on the computer, so the person that you watch on the news, you see them like they're looking at the screen. You wonder, they memorize the news or what? But they're actually looking at a screen right in front of them at the camera, through the camera lens, and they're reading it from there, and it looks like they know by heart, but they don't, they read it. And if that goes off, or the person that scrolls the news according to the speed of their reading, if they mess up, then they have the pieces of paper in front of them to fall to in case they lost their place on the teleprompter. It's quite a bit of an operation. The newsroom itself, where from the newsroom you can go to the studio. Now the studio is designed for the announcers to read the news. And of course we run across Dallas Rain once in a while coming in, saying the weather, Michelle Tuzzi and her team, David Uno, and I'm saying, oh man, I gotta get their autographs, but then you look and say, I better not, they'll probably kick me out. Kind of exciting to see all these people you see on television right in front of you, and kind of hard not to say anything, but they're there. And you pass the news to them and they read it, and they have what they call a stage monitor that tells them what's coming up next. And if they have a special event in the studio there, he arranges it, and then you see robotic cameras. Robotic cameras are controlled by somebody in a totally different room, and they move by themselves. They don't pan, tilt, and zoom only. The whole camera moves. It's a robotic system, and the guy controls, from a different room, controls where they are, and he can move them anywhere, and you hear the warning signs, lights telling you that the camera is going to move. All these preparations that you see are specifically made so the news can come out in a proper format. And sometimes it happens that something new comes up, and then they have to change. They spend all the hours preparing for a news item. All of a sudden something current comes, they just kill it. They say, kill this item, and now they're doing something else. They have news reporters, helicopters, just waiting for something to happen, like a fire hydrant break-in, a chase, or a fire. They think those are strong visuals that people like to watch. Their main focus is profit. So they focus on things that generate profit. How do they generate profit? By having the maximum number of people watching that station. That's how they get their ratings. So it doesn't matter really what kind of news they put in, maybe. It matters that people are watching their station. So that's how they became the best news tellers. We have a better story to tell to the world, and it takes much more organization to do the same thing. We have the story of salvation to tell the whole world about. And if ABC can be the best in news telling, let's be better than that in spreading the word of God to the world. The second item I want to talk about is progression. Now, I want you to imagine, or if you have a pencil and a piece of paper, to place a dot on the top left of the piece of paper you have. If you don't have the paper, I want you to imagine this in your mind. You have a wonderful mind, and they call it a theater of mind. That's when you imagine or be creative and think about what you can form from a story as you read it or hear it on the radio. That's how radio started, using theater of the mind. Now, a dot on top of the page is very simple. It's just a dot, but it's a start. Now, what I want you to do is to take that dot with a pencil and stretch it all the way to the right. And what do we have now? A line, of course. So a line is a little bit more complicated than a dot. So we have a little bit of progress here. Now, take that line and stretch it down. And what do we have? A square on a 2D, or a rectangle. A rectangle is a little bit more complicated than a straight line. So you see the progression? Well, what can we do next? Take that square and stretch it out. And what do you have? A 3D image. And that's how a successful story can be listened to on television or radio, by the process of progression. You start with something simple and you build on it until you get to something really complicated. What I want to read now is from Romans chapter 12, verse 2, and that would be the concept I would like us to think about as we talk about the media. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that is which is good and acceptable and perfect. I recall a conversation about secular media between my boss and me during lunch 25 years ago that brought a notable change in my attitude toward life in general. My children were at an age of selecting their own music, and the type of music they selected was totally radical to me. Now, why am I not so surprised? I wanted to take all the records they had and break them into pieces. My boss, Dominic, looked at me and said, I hope you wouldn't do that, but rather find something better to offer them instead. As I started to examine more closely what I said, the sad but true conclusion revealed that I was not thinking critically. You see, although I was determined to ban secular music, I had no trouble going to the movies, reading secular books, and watching regular television. I thought by avoiding what is questionable and filtering obvious no-nos, this would be okay. We have to work hard to discern and think critically in order to remove all the inconsistencies occurring in our daily lives as believers. Does this mean we totally avoid secular media? Before we can answer this question objectively, we need to have people of vision, people who possess an unusual competence in discernment or perception, intelligent foresight, as described by the American Heritage Dictionary. Jesus certainly had a great vision, the saving of souls. If we read Matthew chapter 9, verses 36 through 38, seeing the people, he felt compassion for them because they were distressed and dispirited like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore, beseech the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest." In today's world, the Christian ministry desperately needs an elevated vision of what it's about. Without the ability to visualize worthy goals and how these can be realized, very little of importance is achieved. Our church has taken a bold step in faith to spread the gospel to thousands in our community and around the world each year. Wow. Now that is a great vision for a church in action. You might say, spreading the gospel to thousands of people each year is a huge goal. Indeed it is. I don't think God wants us to have a tunnel vision, do you? Can it be done? Absolutely. Unless you just want to be keeping house for the Lord or have an occasional conversation about Jesus with your children or spouses. One way to achieve this goal is to use the mass media. Mass media is a term used to denote a section of the media specifically envisioned and designed to reach a very large audience, such as the population of a nation-state. To give you an idea on the importance of mass media, in 2006, advertisers spent a total of $263.77 billion so you can buy their products. Here are some of the statistics. And this is taken from Ad Age 2006 Fact Pack. Direct mail, $52,000.19 billion. Newspapers, $46.61 billion. Broadcast TV, $46.26 billion, that is. Cable TV, $21.53 billion. Radio, $19.68 billion. Yellow Pages, $14 billion. Consumer Magazine, $12.25 billion. Internet, $6.85 billion. Out of home, $5.7 billion. Business publications, $4.07 billion. All others, $34.65 billion. I don't know what they mean by all others, but that's a lot of money for all others. That's $34.65 billion, which comes to the total of $263.77 billion. Yes. Creators of media make their living from being media literate. We need the basic information necessary to critique the messages that shape our values and culture. Simply defined, mass media literacy or media literacy is the act of learning to use critical thinking skills to analyze the truly staggering number of messages we are bombarded with daily. While it's true that many of these messages come from the form of advertising, everything from billboards to matchbook covers, selling products is only the tip of the media iceberg. That's only the tip. Other than few brief lessons concerning the evils of advertising in elementary school, most Americans receive little, if any, real media literacy education. Purveyors of mass media, however, spend thousands of hours studying what have truly become a science as well as an art, media literacy. Purveyors, it means the vendors and people who supply the items for the advertising. The Playboy bunny has captured the adoration and exaltation of today's youth. One can find the icon on the backs of cars, shirts, keychains, and now on junior sizes. It has become a popular icon not only among adults, but its image has become mainstream. Children are now targets and billboards for not only the logo, but the underlying conceptual theology on gender and sex. I want to repeat that. Children are now targets and billboards for not only the logo, but the underlying conceptual theology on gender and sex. A theology they are too young to understand, yet have already adopted and internalized before they have had a chance to experience alternative perceptions on sex and sexuality. How did this pervasive bunny breed so fast? The media and advertisement has shaped and changed the perception of its unacceptable character into an acceptable one. Advertisement has become the PR for the sex industry. And I don't mean the same PR Lena and Monique may think of. PR here is public relations. In 2005, a survey found in an article by Kara Cochran, Why Porn is the New Glamour, that 63% of girls between the ages of 15 and 19 wanted to become glamour models, and 25% lap dancers. Porn, or at least soft porn, has been glamorized, and the lines between classy and trashy has been blurred over the last 2 decades. The Playboy bunny icon can be found anywhere from pens, erasers, cute little pink slippers, on shirts, pants, and now on clothes for kids. First wave feminists fought against the promiscuous bunny and protested the Playboy lifestyle of demeaning women as sex objects. Where are those women now? After years of marketing, the industry have craftily changed public perception. Not only have they changed the public's opinion, but are ensuring acceptance by the next generation. Richard Weikert, in his book From Darwin to Hitler, explains the revolutionary impact Darwinism had on ethics and morality. He demonstrates that many leading Darwinian biologists and social thinkers in Germany believe that Darwin overturned traditional Judeo-Christian and Enlightenment ethics, especially those pertaining to the sacredness of human life. Many of these thinkers supported moral relativism, yet simultaneously exalted evolutionary fitness. especially in terms of intelligence and health, as the highest arbiter of morality. Weichert concludes that Darwinism played a key role not only in the rise of eugenics, but also in euthanasia, infanticide, abortion, and racial extermination, all ultimately embraced by the Nazis. He convincingly makes the disturbing argument that Hitler built views of ethics on Darwinian principles rather than nihilistic ones, a rethinking of the historical impact that Darwin had on our course of events in the 20th century should be encouraged. Becoming media literate doesn't require a large investment in time or study, but it does require acknowledging one's own personal media consumption habits and committing to monitor this media diet with the goal of understanding, why do I spend so much time with this form of media? What does it do for me? What is the emotional payoff? And reducing personal time spent with various media products. Most people consistently understand the power of media messages while overestimating their own personal power to resist these messages. Using critical thinking skills when exposed to any type of media becomes easier with practice. An unconscious consumer of media perpetuates the problem. Become educated about the inner workings and techniques of media creation. Learn to recognize that all messages in all media forms are targeted messages, not simply the advertisement and commercials. Asking tough questions about these messages is the difference between an unconscious consumer and a media literate user of media products. Media literacy is often based not on what you know, but what you ask. Who is this message intended for? Who wants to reach this group and why? What emotional hook is being relied on to grab the attention of consumers? Feeling popular or fear of embarrassment? These are some emotional hooks that the advertiser tries to get you to be hooked on, so you do what they want you to do. Who produced this piece of media for what purpose? Who profits from it? Who loses? What views is being promoted? What views are missing? With recent changes in the law allowing large-scale convergence of all types of media, an informed and critical understanding of the media is crucial now more than ever. In American society, as we receive more of our information from fewer unrelated sources and the effect of these sources on our culture steadily increase, it becomes imperative that private citizens take the business of media as seriously as the corporations who control it. What can help us to evaluate and enlarge our vision in the Lord's work? Let's first notice how an inadequate vision can actually stifle our work. Suppose a church is driven by the vision of bringing as many people to the Lord as possible. Two things may keep this church from bringing as many people as they should. The church may be limited in its idea of what is a lot of people. The church may never make any specific plans other than have the vague notion of bringing as many people as possible. The church problem, its vision, may be too small concerning what can be done, may be too general without any plans for what it can be doing now to make its vision a reality. No dreams has ever been achieved except by someone who dared to flesh it out in terms of the specifics necessary to make the dream a reality. For example, it's fine to plan, to go to heaven, to serve the Lord faithfully, to do the work of evangelism. But how do we do such things? By what means do we get those results? What specific measurable actions will take us where we want to be? How much time, effort, and money will it take? We need to see our vision of the Lord's work in concrete terms of things we can actually do, and plan specifically how much of them we are going to do. When we do things specifically about the Lord's work, we often fail to see our sights high enough, or to set our sights high enough. Perhaps we are hindered by our past experience. Personal efforts in the past may have not been fruitful, or may have not borne fruit. Congregational efforts did not seem to go anywhere. Perhaps we have been fed a steady diet of defeatism, told by others that people are not interested in spiritual matters anymore, telling ourselves that people are not interested. If you think people are not interested in spiritual matters, I would like to tell you about the thousands of non-believers coming to Christ in Tunisia, Morocco, Algiers, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the list goes on. Millions of precious people around the world have no means of knowing Jesus other than through satellite radio and television. The baby boomer generation here in the United States tried everything possible to enjoy the good life except being close to God, and now, as they approach their retirement age, they are yearning to fill the emptiness they feel in their life by coming to Christ. The Lord has opened the doors for us to embark on a great mission that we can do to make a difference in this world. A few decades ago, I went through a major depression that caused me to deteriorate physically and spiritually. As I lifted my heart and spirit to Jesus, I cried out for help. And he stretched his hands and pulled me up and said, "I have a job for you to do." I felt the need to go back home to Jordan, so I went. I went to Jerusalem and to the Sea of Galilee. I felt so close to the Lord, as if he was walking with me the streets where he walked over 2,000 years ago. To me, this was the beginning of a new journey with the Lord, of learning and feeling a sense of purpose. Everything was falling into place like clockwork. And finally, he brought us all together as one body, ready to go into action. Let us all join hands and make this day a kickoff meeting for a greater goal. If each of us brought one person this year to church, we will double our numbers. One person. and that will double our number. Our TV ministry needs people to produce content programs. We need writers. We need talents. We need artists. We need decorations. We need cameramen. We need program hosts. And the list goes on. The fields are white for the harvest. Let's get to work. Thank you.